The conference room was alive with the hum of polite laughter and murmured updates on quarterly goals. I stood by the coffee station, absently stirring my latte when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Tyler. I expected a quick check-in, maybe a lazy, "How's the trip?" or a half-hearted, "Don't forget to grab dog food." Instead, his voice cut through the line, cold and smug. "I'm divorcing you," he said like he was ordering takeout. "Oh, and I already sold the apartment, so you'll need to figure out where you're living next. Good luck." For a second, I said nothing. The hallway seemed to stretch in slow motion, the hum of my co-workers' voices warping into background noise. "You sold the apartment?" I asked, keeping my voice, even my grip on the phone, tightening. "Yeah," he chuckled. "Nicole and I need the money. She deserves better than that shoebox. Nicole." The name hit like a slap, even though deep down I'd already suspected there was someone else. Tyler's sudden late nights, his random business trips that didn't quite line up with his calendar, his cold kisses and colder silences, it had been adding up like a puzzle I hadn't wanted to finish. "Sounds good," I said calmly, because there was no way I'd let him hear me break. He thought he was ending me, that he'd just dropped a bomb that would leave me scrambling, begging, broken. But here's what Tyler didn't know. My name is Amelia Barnes, I'm 33, and I'm a senior analyst at a mid-sized consultancy firm in downtown Chicago. I've always been the quiet fixer, the one who smooths the details, handles. The fine print does the invisible work that keeps everything afloat. Tyler never saw that side of me. He thought he was the mastermind, the big thinker, the charming strategist, the one who made the real decisions. And maybe he had for a while. But 5 months ago, after a refinancing move, I initiated to lower our mortgage rate. I had the deed to our apartment transferred into my name and my name alone. Tyler had signed the paperwork without blinking. He never asked questions, probably never even read it. That tiny detail. It was going to be the crack that split his entire plan in half. Segment 2-2. By the time I returned to my hotel room, the early sting of betrayal had dulled into something else focus. Not panic, not sadness, but cold, purposeful momentum. I sat at the edge of the bed, slid off my heels, and dialed the one person I knew could help me dismantle this without blinking: Chloe. Chloe and I had been best friends since college, back when we were both cramming for exams and splitting $2 coffees. Now she was a partner at a boutique law firm in the Loop, smart, ruthless when needed, and one of the few people I trusted implicitly. He what she snapped when I told her. "He sold the apartment," I repeated, or at least he thinks he did. Chloe let out a short laugh. "Please tell me you're serious about the deed being in your name." "Transferred during the refi," I said. "He signed everything without reading." Typical. "Oh, he's screwed," she said flatly. "Amelia, that sale's not just illegal, it's fraud. He can't sell property he doesn't own." Those words settled over me like warm armor. Fraud. Not only had Tyler tried to throw me away like trash, he'd done it without even realizing he was breaking the law in the process. "What do we do next?" "I'll notify the buyer immediately," Chloe said. "Then we'll send Tyler a formal letter outlining the situation and the legal consequences if he doesn't back off." I exhaled slowly, setting my phone on the bedspread and staring out at the glittering Chicago skyline beyond the window. It felt surreal. Tyler had tried to walk away with everything: my home, my pride, my peace, and instead, he'd unknowingly set me up for one of the most thorough takedowns I could have imagined. And the best part, he still thought he'd won. Let him. Let him enjoy this final night believing he'd left me with nothing. Because by the time I got home, he'd realize he was the one standing in ashes. The morning I landed back in Chicago, the air felt colder, sharper, as if the city itself knew something big was about to happen. I wheeled my suitcase through baggage claim and called Chloe the second I cleared the exit doors. She picked up on the first ring. "I'm back," I said. "What's our next step?" "We already contacted the buyer," she replied briskly. "They were not pleased. They'd already transferred a deposit and are threatening to sue him, not you." They're also willing to testify that Tyler misrepresented ownership. A small, satisfied smile crept across my face. Good. And the letter sent this morning. I outlined your legal ownership, the invalidity of the sale, and the definition of property fraud in the state of Illinois. He's either stunned, silent, or trying to breathe through the panic. I could almost see him now pacing around trying to make sense of it. Tyler had always believed in his own charm more than the law, but charm can't erase a paper trail. I arrived at our apartment that afternoon, and I say, loosely, it was legally mine, and after this, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, it would be mine too. Everything looked the same at first glance. His favorite leather jacket still slung over the armchair, his scattered tech gear blinking from the corner of the desk, but the air felt different, hollow. It no longer felt like a shared home. It felt like a waiting room before a storm. The storm arrived that evening exactly as I expected. The front door burst open and Tyler walked in like a man on fire. His cheeks were flushed, his eyes wild. In his hand, he waved the printed letter Chloe had sent. "What the hell is this?" he snapped, holding the paper like it had personally insulted him. "You're telling me I can't sell the apartment, it's half mine." "No," I said calmly, arms crossed. "It's not. The deed has been in my name for months. You signed it during the refinance. Remember." He blinked. Once. Twice. His rage flickered into confusion, then quickly snapped back into indignation. "You tricked me." "No," I said. "You just didn't read what you signed, like always." He stood there stunned, processing. I took the deed from a folder I'd left on the dining table and handed it to him like it was a receipt for a lesson. "This is the document you signed," I said. "You agreed to the transfer of ownership in exchange for the lower mortgage rate. You didn't even ask questions. That's on you." His eyes darted over the page, hands trembling slightly. The confident man who'd sneered through the phone just days ago looked suddenly small. "This doesn't change anything," he snapped, a flash of arrogance returning. "The sale is already in motion. You'll look like a fool when it closes." "It won't close," I said. "The buyer knows the sale is invalid and they're preparing a fraud complaint. You took money for property you don't own." That's when his bravado cracked. He turned away, pacing, muttering. "You don't know what you're doing," he said, voice low now. "You're blowing this out of proportion. You can't just kick me out." I stepped forward, my voice calm but absolute. "Actually, I can. And I will. But I'm giving you a few days to pack. I don't want a scene. You'd throw me out like trash," he whispered, more hurt than angry now. "You did that the moment you made that phone call," I replied. "I'm just taking out the garbage." He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. And then the front door opened again, and in walked Nicole. Tall, glossy, lipsticked confidence with a designer bag slung over one shoulder and entitlement dripping from every word. "Oh, good," she said brightly. "So this is where we'll be staying for a while." I turned to face her, fully heart-pounding, but my voice, smooth as glass. "No," I said. "This is where you won't be staying. Ever." Nicole blinked at me, clearly not used to being told no. She looked around the apartment like it was a showroom floor she'd already purchased. Her manicured fingers slid along the granite countertop, lips pursed in mock appreciation. Tyler stood in the middle, torn between damage control and embarrassment. "Amelia, don't do this in front of her." "No," I said firmly. "This is exactly the time to do it, because I want her to hear the truth from me, not from whatever nonsense you've fed her." Nicole turned to him confused. "Wait, what is she talking about?" Tyler shot me a warning look, but I wasn't playing by his rules anymore. "He told you he sold this place, didn't he?" I asked, locking eyes with her. "Said it was his apartment and that you'd be moving in together." Nicole nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing. "Yeah." So I gestured to the open deed folder still on the table. "Tyler doesn't own this apartment. I do. The sale he tried to make completely illegal. The buyer's threatening to sue, and Tyler could face fraud charges." Nicole's smile wavered. She looked at Tyler. "You said everything was handled." Tyler tried to laugh it off. It is. She's just making this dramatic. She's upset, obviously. She's not wrong, I cut in. You took money for a property that doesn't belong to you. That's textbook fraud. And you brought her here to play house cute. Nicole stepped back. Are you serious right now, Very? There was a long, tense silence. Nicole turned toward Tyler, her voice sharp now. You told me you sold it. That we had the deposit, that this was your place. You told me it was done. I'm working on it, he stammered. It's complicated. No, I said, stepping forward. It's not. He tried to pull off a sleazy illegal sale and didn't think I'd notice. And now both of you are standing in my home. Nicole looked like she'd been slapped. She stepped back further now, visibly rattled. So there's no apartment, no money. There was never a legal sale, I said. And whatever money Tyler took, he'll have to pay back, probably with interest. Tyler opened his mouth, desperate to explain, but Nicole wasn't listening. She turned to him, her voice rising. You told me we'd be set up. You lied about all of this. I didn't lie, he insisted, though the panic in his voice betrayed him. I just didn't know. You didn't know, she repeated, nearly shrieking. How do you not know who owns your apartment? Nicole shook her head in disbelief, then looked at me one last time, her eyes full of judgment and maybe a flicker of reluctant respect. I'm not doing this, she muttered, grabbing her bag. I'm not getting dragged into your mess. She stormed out without another word. And just like that, Tyler's carefully constructed fantasy cracked wide open. He stood in the middle of the room, stunned shoulders sagging. I walked past him, picked up the folder of divorce papers from the kitchen counter and dropped it onto the coffee table with a soft thud. That I said is your future. I suggest you sign it. You don't have to do this, he whispered. I stared at him, the calm in my voice sharper than any scream. No, Tyler, I want to. Tyler slumped onto the couch, his hands buried in his face. The same couch we'd once picked out together, agonizing over swatches and thread counts like it mattered. Now it felt like nothing more than a stage prop in a life he'd tried to burn to the ground. Amelia? I screwed up, he muttered. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch between us like a chasm. The truth was, I didn't feel the anger anymore, not the kind that boiled and raged. What I felt now was colder, quieter resolve, clarity. I know you did, I said, setting the wine glass I'd poured earlier back on the kitchen counter. But you didn't just screw up a marriage, Tyler. You tried to erase me. You tried to take the very roof over my head and use it to build a fantasy life with someone else. I wasn't thinking straight. You were thinking selfish, I corrected, and you thought I was too weak or too trusting to notice. He looked up, eyes rimmed with red. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Nicole pushed for the sale. She wanted the money. You just didn't care who you hurt, I finished. There it was. The truth he kept dodging neatly laid out like a trap he'd set for himself, and he walked right into it. I've lost everything, he said, voice cracking. She's gone. You're done with me. My job's on the line if this legal stuff blows up. I tilted my head. Maybe you should have thought about that before you committed fraud, Tyler. He winced. That word still hit him hard. But we were happy once, weren't we? He asked, almost desperately. Doesn't that count for something? I sat down across from him, folding my hands in my lap. It counted until you started counting me out, I said. You stopped listening. You stopped showing up. And then you didn't just check out, you replaced me. His voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't mean to replace you, but you did. And now you're finally seeing what that costs. He looked at the folder again, the thick divorce packet Chloe had prepared. His fingers hovered over the edge. You already had this ready. I had a feeling I'd need it, I said. You gave up on us long before that phone call, Tyler. I just finally caught up. There was a beat of silence. Then he asked, Is there anything I can say to fix this? No, I said softly, but with certainty. This isn't something you fix. This is something you accept. He leaned back, defeated. I never thought you'd be the one holding all the cards. I never thought I'd need to, I replied. The next morning, he was gone. He left behind his boxes the keys and a pathetic handwritten note that simply read, I'm sorry. There was a time that would have shattered me. Now it felt like closure. That evening, Lauren came over with takeout and a mischievous glint in her eyes. So she said, holding up a greasy bag of dumplings ready to burn his stupid jerseys, or do you want to donate them to someone who doesn't suck? I laughed the sound, catching me off guard. Let's donate. No point in giving him that kind of ceremony. We boxed up what little he hadn't already taken and toasted with cheap wine to fresh starts. Do you know how proud I am of you? Lauren said, raising her glass. I looked around the apartment now stripped of Tyler's clutter and chaos and smiled. Yeah, I said. For the first time, I think I'm proud of me too. The silence after Tyler left wasn't empty, it was clean. For the first time in years, the apartment felt like mine. The hum of the fridge, the light from the windows, even the echo of my own footsteps across the hardwood, they all belonged to me again. There were no more scattered receipts from his impulsive spending, no cluttered desk filled with useless gadgets, no loud gaming chair looming in the corner like a third presence in the room. Just me. That weekend, Lauren came over with 2 coffees, a Bluetooth speaker, and a plan. We're detoxing, she announced, dropping her oversized tote on the couch. Spiritual, emotional, and definitely decorative. We started with the living room. I moved my favorite print, an abstract skyline I'd always loved, into the center of the gallery wall where Tyler's ridiculous vintage sports poster used to hang. We swapped out the dark, moody throw pillows for warm amber and cream tones. The apartment seemed to exhale. As we rearranged the bookshelves, Lauren pulled out one of Tyler's old fantasy novels. You keeping any of his stuff? I paused. Only the things that aren't soaked in ego. She laughed, tossing the book into the donation pile. Fair. Each item I boxed up wasn't just a possession, it was a piece of control I'd given away without realizing. A decision I'd let someone else make. Every item I removed was a declaration, I choose me now. Later that afternoon, Chloe called. You have a minute always, I said, settling into my reading chair. I have good news, she said. The buyer has formally withdrawn. No court, no fraud charges, as long as Tyler doesn't push his luck. Relief swept through me like a deep breath I hadn't realized I was holding. And the divorce he signed. Just like that. I was free. There was no dramatic standoff, no final speech, just a quiet line drawn in ink and sealed with a signature. He didn't even ask for anything, Chloe continued. I think he knows he doesn't have a leg to stand on. And maybe a part of him knows he doesn't deserve a piece of what you built. I blinked back the sudden sting in my eyes. Thank you, Chloe. Don't thank me, she said warmly. You did this. You protected yourself. You fought back. And you didn't stoop to his level. That's power. When the call ended, I sat in the silence of my apartment for a long moment. I wasn't just divorced. I wasn't just living alone. I was free. Free from the gaslighting, the passive-aggressive digs, the way he'd taken up so much space and left me shrinking smaller just to keep the peace. The next day, I took a half day off work and went to a local boutique I'd passed a dozen times but never allowed myself to enter. I bought a bright mustard velvet chair that Tyler would have hated and had it delivered that evening. It sat in the corner of the bedroom like a beacon, bold, joyful, and entirely mine. Tyler still texted occasionally, weak apologies, guilt-ridden questions. One said, "Can we at least talk?" Another, "You're going to ruin me, Amelia. Is that what you want?" I didn't respond. Not because I hadn't drafted a dozen replies, but because the silence said it all. I didn't need to ruin Tyler. He had done that to himself. A month passed, but it felt like a lifetime. The apartment, once a battleground of broken trust and muted arguments, now radiated peace. I didn't do anything drastic, no full-scale renovations, no wild makeovers. But the feeling changed. The light seemed to fall softer across the walls. My steps echoed differently, like the place was listening again, like it belonged to me. I framed one of my own photographs, a shot I'd taken years ago during a solo trip to Lake Michigan, and hung it above the fireplace. Reclaimed space, reclaimed identity. Lauren insisted we celebrate properly. She made reservations at a rooftop bar in River North, one of those trendy spots with string light skyline views and cocktails named after indie films. We clinked glasses beneath the violet dusk. "To you," she said, raising her drink. "To your glow-up, to your quiet power, to your velvet chair." I laughed, really laughed, and raised mine in return. "To freedom, the kind you fight for, not the kind you're handed." She grinned. "So you keeping the apartment forever, or is this just chapter 1? "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "It still holds shadows. But for now, it's mine. And that's enough." Later that night, I sat on the couch with a mug of tea and sifted through a shoebox I hadn't touched since Tyler moved out. Old receipts, trinkets, birthday cards with empty promises. And then there, it was a photo of us. We looked so young, so hopeful. His arm was draped over my shoulders, my smile just slightly too wide, like I was trying to prove something. I stared at the photo for a long while, not in longing, but in reflection. We weren't always miserable. There were good years, moments of genuine laughter, dreams once shared, but none of it excused what he became, or how easily he discarded what we built. I slid the photo into an envelope and tucked it deep inside a drawer. Not destroyed, just archived. It didn't deserve to be on display, but I wasn't ready to throw it away either. The next day, I walked through the apartment like I was seeing it for the first time. The kitchen where I'd once made dinners, he forgot to eat. The hallway where we'd argued in hushed tones. The bed I used to curl up in, wondering what I'd done wrong. None of it held the same weight now. There was no Tyler here, just me. That evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, I curled into my mustard velvet chair, a journal on my lap. I didn't write anything profound, just a sentence I didn't want to forget. I didn't lose myself, I reclaimed her. I knew someday I'd move. The apartment was a victory, not a forever, but it was proof that I could take back what was stolen piece by piece. Tyler never called again after Chloe sent him the final asset agreement. No fight, no last plea, just silence. He must have known finally that I was serious. Maybe Nicole moved on. Maybe he did too. That part of the story no longer mattered to me, because this wasn't about who I left behind. It was about who I became. So if you're watching this wondering if you're strong enough to walk away from someone who took everything for granted, let me tell you something. You already are. You just have to take the first step. Have you ever faced betrayal like this? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you rose above it. If this resonated with you, share and subscribe for more real stories of justice, resilience, and power. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is living beautifully.